Corporate restructuring is a prolific organizational strategy used to change the composition of a company's workforce. But research shows us that roughly 50% of corporate downsizing events actually achieve their set goals. There's also mixed results about how the stock market reacts to layoffs. This study suggests that we need to look beyond the mere absence or presence of layoffs to think about why the layoff happened and who communicated it to truly understand how stakeholders interpret the layoff events. To explore this, we rely on explanations given in the traditional judicial system. When someone who's accused of committing a crime is brought into the court system, they might try to excuse or justify their actions, to shift blame or suggest that the crime wasn't so bad, essentially in an effort to minimize their penalty. The accused might also apologize for the incident or deny it altogether. We know that layoffs are still fundamentally considered a negative organizational event, so stakeholders do expect an explanation. We think that the variations and explanations aligned with what we see in the judicial system will result in differing reactions. We also think that the messenger matters, that reactions will vary if the layoff explanation comes from the CEO, who is the ultimate leader of the organization, versus others in the organization, like a spokesperson or a general manager. To explore this topic, we looked at 388 layoff announcements in the news over a 9-year period. We had 3 researchers read and code the explanations of the layoffs. Some organizations used excuses and they shifted the blame, essentially saying that they had to do the layoffs, but it wasn't their fault. They shifted blame to the external environment, competitors, technology, and so on. Some organizations used justifications to minimize the layoff negativity. These companies were generally saying that they were engaging in layoffs now to gain a better future for tomorrow. They positioned this as short-term pain for long-term gain. Some organizations engaged in apologies in which they accepted blame and event negativity, generally saying that they're sorry that they caused harm. They owned up to the fact that layoffs are a negative organizational event and that layoffs happened because management chose for them to happen. And of course, we had some organizations that engaged in denials, rejecting blame and event negativity. This happened in one of 2 ways. One was positive reframing, using words like right-sizing or workforce optimization rather than negative framing, or flat-out denying that job cuts happened altogether. So why would these 4 different types of explanations result in differing interpretations? To make sense of this, we relied on fairness theory that essentially says that there's 3 levers that trigger blame and penalty assignment: the would, could, and should counterfactuals. The would counterfactual actually happens first, and stakeholders ask, would I be better off if this did not happen? Next come the could and should counterfactuals in no specific order. For the could, stakeholders ask, could the company have acted differently, and were there other feasible alternatives available within the company's control? For the should counterfactual, stakeholders ask, should the company have acted differently morally or ethically? The results, as expected, show us that the explanations matter. Shareholders react positively to excuses, but negatively to all other explanations. More specifically, apologies elicited the most negative reactions, followed by denials and then justifications. Moreover, when the CEO was the person delivering the message, penalties and negative reactions, specifically for excuses and apologies, were amplified. What are the implications? There's 4 that we need to think about. 1 is that denials and apologies are the most damaging in the short term. Stakeholders want to know how the layoffs are positioned relative to external factors or the firm's strategy in the long term. 2, stakeholders react quickly, but the effect is relatively neutralized after day 3 of the announcement, so we need to ensure that we're communicating quickly and in a timely manner. 3, we need to reconsider when the CEO needs to be the messenger or when a spokesperson or other organizational agent can be the communications lead, especially when it comes to the media. The results suggest that the CEO is held to a greater standard of care. Therefore, explanations from CEO that highlight that the layoff is a negative event, we're talking now specifically about apologies and excuses, actually result in greater penalties. And the 4th implication here is that clearly the message matters. Organizations need to be very clear in communicating the reason for the layoffs, but not being disingenuous. Other research shows us that when we lie to stakeholders, they react very negatively, and that mistrust expands to other decisions as stakeholders begin to wonder what else we are lying about. During a time of organizational change, silence is not an option. Layoffs need explanations to both internal and external stakeholders, so be clear, timely, and strategic as you navigate through these uncertain times.